All right, everybody, welcome. We are going to go ahead and start. First and foremost, we want to thank you so much for coming out to the second annual Milkweed and Cookies. It is because of your support and your interest that we are able to do this. And for that, we give you much gratitude and we cannot give you enough. And we're so happy and excited to have this day today. We do hope that you find some time during your day to go out and see our vendors and the tables and the other people who came out to help support this event as well, and give them some hello. We have the raffle prizes were donated by some very generous organizations, and we hope that you go and visit them as well. And don't forget, of course, to get your cookies, right?
Okay, sounds good. So we'll go ahead and get kicked off for our first presentation entitled Native Plant Gardening 101, Gardening Basics, presented by Rene Stroud. Rene is a naturalist with Pottawattamie County Conservation. She has facilitated and managed the installation of many native school gardens within Pottawattamie County. She is slowly transforming her yard in Council Bluffs into a habitat that feeds both the earth and her family. Rene is the secretary at Pollinator Alliance of the Heartland, or PATH. There, she volunteers securing grants and to help fund native plantings and coordinates the planting efforts for the gardens throughout the Heartland. Welcome, Rene.
Thank you, Laurel. All right. I don't know if I deserve it yet. So you tell me at the end whether or not I deserve it, right? All right. So everybody, we are this, like you said, 101. So we are going to go over the basics. That's going to include the whys, the whats, and the hows. This presentation is being recorded. So if I'm going at a clip that is a bit quickly, in order to stay in my time, you can always go back to those recorded recordings to get what you need. All right, so first and foremost, we want to thank the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. It is through their grant funding that we are able to host this event. Again, our donors, and again, the hard work of our PATH members, including Amanda, our president. And when I say PATH, I'm saying Pollinator Alliance of the Heartland. That's what that represents. And this is a grassroots group of volunteers who work to put pollinator habitat, native plants on the ground. And we also work to increase awareness through education and community outreach. And today is an example of that. So we've got our education and we've got plants. And so we highly encourage you to make sure that, or to visit our website, which was up there just a minute ago, and to add your garden to the PATH as well. And we do have these signs that we sell that go with PATH, but there are tons of different kinds of signs, and we'll talk about signage later. It is through PATH, the main goal is to create pathways of habitat, basically corridors for our pollinators, wildlife corridors for our pollinators to be able to come across the Midwest in a safe and secure way by finding the amount of food, shelter, and security that they need to make that journey. Again, we're making maybe one garden, but you never know if you become the catalyst in your neighborhood to have other gardens. And you may be one drop, but then if you add another drop and another drop and another drop, then before you know it, you start adding and normalizing the use of native plants in our urban landscapes. And we hope that you do that and join us on our website as well. So the next one we've got is, we're just going to quick refer. I'm going to say native plants a lot, and I just wanted to go over native. So probably all know, but native means that it evolved here. That plant evolved here. Its genetics were changed and modified by the environment to make it the most successful for this specific location. And in return, that plant was forging relationships with other plants and other animals that it co-evolved with to make the ecosystem the most healthiest and resilient and to work the best. And so that's what we're going to be talking about when we talk about native plants. Before we go too much farther, we want to talk a little bit about our why, right? I think it's important always to know your why. The fact that you're here, though, tells me you know your why, so I am not going to bore you with whys. I'm going to go quickly through whys. But I think it's important to know, because if you have a neighbor who comes up and wants to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you'll have your own personal why, and I think that's super important, and that is going to be the most important thing, but that may not resonate with them. So if you have a couple of ideas of why, that you might be able to pull out one idea that may resonate with them and encourage them to do so as well. So first is saving endangered habitats. There is not much prairie, native prairie left, so about 4% in Iowa. I'm from Iowa, you guys, so I'm sorry. All my stats are going to be Iowa stats. Less than 0.1% of our original prairies are left. So if you have 10 people, that's like basically you're getting down to one person's pinky. It's not very much. So you can make a difference by adding that habitat back in your little neck of the woods. And I feel like this is the best thing, because then you get to give back a little bit, right? You are giving some reciprocity back, right? You're giving a little gift back to the earth, and we'll talk about it later, but it's going to benefit you as well. I love the fact, this is one of my favorite things. As a kid, I had a really hard time in school. I had some learning issues in the 80s. It wasn't always something people really understood. And having wild spaces, I only had little micro wild spaces, but having those wild spaces helped me to overcome some really difficult times. And I think we all resonate with that in some way, shape, or form. Think of COVID. I work at the park at Hitchcock Nature Center, and we were busiest during COVID, because I think we understand that, right? But it has been backed up by science, which is nice. And then nature does this amazing thing where you gift her something and she gifts you back tenfold. And so here's the really cool thing. When we start bringing back these native biological communities through their life processes, they promote and they help the ecosystem function. The ecosystem, of course, their systems help the ecosystem function, and those are what supports all life, including our own. So you can see there, reducing erosion. I do want you to look at the roots of the lawn grass, because we're going to talk about that in a little bit, and compare that to the roots of everybody else, right? Quite a bit different. This is long-term. We're talking about less chemicals, less water, and eventually less maintenance. Now, less maintenance is not no maintenance, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And you will have costs up front, but it will slow down. And then food security. I grow my garden. You can see my little garden plot there, and it's next to my wildlife garden. It's next to my native garden, right? Because we know that our fruits and vegetables, their bloom times are not going to extend as long as our natives do, not as early in the spring and not as late in the fall. And apart from the monarch and the green darner, everybody else is hiding out in the winter. I think winter insects are fascinating. They're there. They're here. They're just not, you got to really look for them. So providing them with some sort of winter cover is hugely important to their winter survival. And so by having natives, you can do that. And next is that it fuels the food web. How many of you like birds? Who likes bird? The absolute best bird feeder in the entire world is a native garden. It takes about 5,000 caterpillars to feed 5 chickadee babies to get them reared up. The best way you can get caterpillars is by having a garden that you allow caterpillars to eat on, and the caterpillars are going to be attracted to. And so you're fueling the food web and the diversity. And so when we talk about diversity, we know biodiversity is super important, especially during our changing times and climate, right? So we know that everything in this world is like mind-blowingly, exquisitely interconnected in a web of life and interwoven relationships. And the more biodiversity, so more different kinds of life that you can bring to the yard, that you can bring to the area, the stronger and more resilient that web is. Right? So the more you bring in, the better and the healthier everybody's going to be, including ourselves. It also supports unique insects and unique creatures, so host plants. That means that there is an insect out there that needs that plant to, at some point in its life cycle, which is wild. And just because they're so cool, you guys. They're what? Look at that camouflage looper. Do you guys see him? Oh, here, I forgot. I got the thing right here. Look at that. That insect is taking little bits of plants and sticking them to him like a Halloween costume. It's insane. I love this little candy stripe leaf hopper. They're so pretty. So it's a fun time to be able to hang out in the garden and see what sort of wild and wacky, amazing little critters are right under your nose that a lot of times we just float right by. We don't stop to slow down to see them. This is a swallowtail, you guys. This is a swallowtail caterpillar. It looks like bird poop. It could do not, but it is a swallowtail caterpillar, which is wild. All right, so real fast, we'll go through this quickly. We're almost there. Pollinators. We know that some plants are wind pollinated. The rest of them, the majority of them, are insect pollinated. So that means they need an actual animal to physically move, or animal. They need an animal to move their pollen from one plant to the other. Those pollinators include things that you know, obvious, right? Like butterflies. Like this is a hummingbird moth, so moths. That's on a turtle head flower, and bees. But did you also know wasps are pollinators too? So they got a job. Beetles are pollinators as well. Flies are pollinators as well. So even though they're annoying sometimes, they have a good job. They have a job to do. And of course, everybody knows the hummingbird. All right, so now let's get to the reason why you're here, the how-tos. So there are going to be several options I'm going to go through for lawn conversion. And the option that you choose is whatever seems best for you. You get to choose what option. We will be primarily talking about plugs during this program. If you are interested in seeds, come back to the 3 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you. The 2:15 with Katie and learn more about seeds. I'll be out there I'll be in a different shirt, but I'll be outside. You can talk to me and you can also talk to Laurel as well later on. So when it comes to lawn conversion, first and foremost, don't till. I know it's something we want to do when it comes to gardening, but we don't want to till. The reason why you don't till is because when you till, you bring up weed seeds that the seed bank, you move the seed bank and you can bring that on up and then you'll have a big bloom of weeds that you got to compete with. With lawn grass, when you break it up, if you still have some of those rhizomes or that underground root system there, it will still continue to flourish. It's like game on, let's go. It's like you mess with me, I mess with you. So those are a big one that I think is pretty hard to, it's not always the most obvious. I also wanted to, before we get into herbicides, I also want to mention the ground cloths, those cloth, those aren't really necessary. And I'm going to get into that later. All right, herbicides. So this is my front lawn, and you can see I had a plan. We made a little picnic nook, and then I sprayed it. I learned some valuable lessons. When you spray, you want to use a glycophosphate, so something that's going to kill both broadleaves and something that's going to kill grasses. When you do that, make sure, right, first, you read the labels and do that appropriately. Second, you're protecting yourself. It is a chemical. It is a toxin. So you do want to make sure you are physically protected. And third, of course, you need to be responsible about the wind. So we do not want any drift, and especially if you're doing it near a neighbor's yard. You do not want to be able to do it that accidentally burns your neighbor's roses. Nobody wants that. So we really want to watch drift. I learned that you really need to make sure that grass is growing actively. We are in a pretty long period of no rain right now. And that is what the situation was when I sprayed. And I did not realize I should have watered the lawn. I should have watered my lawn and got my grass actively growing, then mowed it, then applied. Because what happened is portions of it looked like it had died, but it hadn't really. It was going dormant anyway already, and it wasn't actively growing. And so the chemical wasn't able to do what it needed to do efficiently. When it comes to spraying, you spray, and then you have to wait about 7 to 14 days, depending on the chemical you use, and it will tell you. And then it's often a really good idea to spray again. You usually have to reapply in case there's oftentimes a place you missed, right? Or it wasn't completely successful. There are pros and cons to this choice, right? The pros are it's a low effort, right? You're spraying it and then you wait. Then that's a pro. Another pro is that the lawn grass can act as a weed buffer. So you don't take the long grass out, you leave the dead long grass and you plant right into the dead long grass. Once, of course, it's appropriate to do so. And so that does help buffer the weeds. I still would put on mulch the first year. It will help suppress with a little bit of suppression, and it makes the neighbors more happy. And then basically the cons then are that it's a chemical, right? You got to use a chemical, and the wait time. I mean, we're talking, up to a month, right? If you're waiting 14 days in between applications and you're doing 2 applications, and then you're waiting for the time before you can put it in the ground. You don't want to accidentally burn one of your plants that you just paid for, or that you just, you know what I mean? The native plants that you are so excited about, you don't want to kill your baby. All right, so smothering is another option. So smothering is, this is with plastic. One thing you want to do, so you get your lawn mowed real short, and then you put the plastic on. You got to really make sure that you get all of that plastic anchored down. You don't want it to blow away, and you want to you want to stop it from getting sunlight, right? You want it to heat up, and you don't want it to get any sunlight. And then you got to wait about a month or 2 months, 1 to 2 months. And at that point in time, you take the plastic cloth off, you can put on your mulch, and then you can plant into the ground right there. So the pros are that you're not using a chemical. It's still relatively low effort, but the cons are that it does take about a month or 2 months, right? It takes time, So it's a long wait time. Our next one, the different technique for smothering is cardboard. So what you want to do is the same start to the setup. So mow the lawn real short before you do it. And then add a thick layer of cardboard. Secure the cardboard down to the ground so it doesn't blow away. And then you're going to add mulch on top of that. The wait time's about the same. So it's still a 1 to 2 month wait time before you plant. This time though, when you go to plant, instead of taking anything off, you just leave it all on, kind of rake up the spot that you want to plant at, and then you just plant right through the rotted cardboard right into the ground. And then, so the pros again, no chemicals. The effort, fairly low effort, medium to low effort. Cons again are the wait time. You're still doing 1 to 2 months. And then, oops, I think I was on the wrong slide. There we go. The next one is sod removal. So for sod removal, this is, you might remember that picture with the roots. So that those sod roots are only a few inches deep. It is possible to cut in underneath those. You can do that in several ways. One is you can use a shovel, a flat shovel. So once you get the top, or once you get a big chunk out, then you can use a flat shovel and you can start trying to get your way down that area. I found this little tool in the corner over here. I don't know if you can see it. Because I don't have the pointer, because I have to use the other one. The little tool on the one corner, that is I found that actually worked pretty well for me. And it was kind of like shaving the lawn. So once I got in underneath the roots, then I just kind of went in along and pulled as I went. And then I didn't have to bend over as much. I just sat on the ground. And then there are other ways. If you have a large area though, you're going to probably want to use a sod cutter and rent a sod cutter. And those things are heavy. They're about 300 pounds. And they can be a little difficult to move. And those sod can get heavy. It's surprising how heavy sod can get. You can have a place to do it for you, like Lucky Toad will do the work for you. And then you don't have to worry about it. But the pros to sod cutting would be that it's immediate. Once you actually get it done, you can get your plants, you can get your mulch on and your plants in the ground right away. You don't have that long wait period. You can reuse that sod for other places in your yard if you needed to fit in a place in the yard. A lot of times if you put it on Facebook, a lot of people will be like, yeah, I'll take your sod, and then you don't have to haul it. You can kill it, let it dry out, make sure it gets, nice and dead, and then you can use it for other purposes. So you can use it, basically flip it upside down, or use the dead, put it back in spots to use it kind of like a natural mulch. In my yard where that first slide you guys saw, I used it to make a berm shortly after my downspout. So I piled it up, tamped it in, piled it up, tamped it in, and created a little berm to help hold water, slow the water down that's coming off my roof line. And then the cons are that it's hard work. All right. And then one thing when you do that though, you don't want to put those fabric cloths down. Those fabric cloths prevent insects from being able to reach the bottom of the ground. And 70% of our bees are ground nesters. So, and plus you guys, they rip so fast. I don't find them all that great. And then when you do mulch, you want to do about 2 to 3 inches of mulch the first year. After the first year, no more mulch. Because again, our ground nesters need to be able to get into the ground. And think about how tiny a bee is and how big a wood chip is. That'd be like asking you to lift like a huge weight, right? So after that first year, let that mulch just sort of rot out. And that's okay because the natural thatch will start coming in anyway. Now, some good information to know is about intentionality and effort, right? So in the picture, you can see a lawn that is not a native lawn, right? Most of that is non-natives. That's just a lawn that hasn't been upkept, right? This is sort of still a new movement, you guys. So when we are doing native plants, we want to make sure we do it well. And we want to, as well as we can, right? We want to make a good impression on our neighbors. Just so you know, I do have up there for Omaha, if there's a quick search, if you search Omaha City Ordinance weeds, it will tell you what is and isn't acceptable. In Council Bluffs, if you live in Iowa, basically go to the Council Bluffs Bee City, or basically, even if you don't live in Council Bluffs, you guys can still go to that website because it's got great information. That is one-stop shop. It's awesome. Just in case, and if you need information, that will help you if you do need background information, if you have HOAs, if you have anybody else who might have an issue with a native garden, that would help give you some background information that might help you make your case. All right, so now let's get into it. So in this garden, this is a 3-year garden. And you can see on this corner, this is year 1. That far corner, there is year 1. And so this is called the sleep, creep, and leap effect. Prairies teach patience. You cannot rush them. They force you to slow down, which in this world is kind of important, right? So the first year is right here because I had to change last minute, so I don't know where my things are. So that's first year, that's the sleep. It doesn't look like it's doing much. Up there on the top corner, that's the creep. It's getting a little bit bigger. It's looking a little more exciting. The thing is happening. And then the third year is the leap. That's when, boom, she starts to look gorgeous. Now, do you understand that a native plants, and really any plants, right? They're going to move. They know what they need and they'll move to where they need to go. So if you are unsuccessful in one area with a specific species, it's okay. If it moved to a new area of the garden, as long as it's not like a major problem in your design or in the way that your neighbors see you, it's fine. All right, so we're gonna get into design, intro into design. So we're not gonna do like this exactly is how you do it, but just some ideas. Does that make sense? So the first thing to do is to spend some time outside. I know this is homework, you guys. Spend some time outside. And your homework is to look around in your yard, figure out where is your sun, where do you have low spots that catch water, where do you have things that you don't want others to see, like things you may want to hide, right? Like utilities and things like that. If you can, map them out. If you can map them out, that's great. If you can map them out, it helps. And then also think about what's your dream? What do you want out of your yard, right? So you can make, I am not the best drawer in the whole wide world, you guys. I make real loose, wacky bubbles. And you can see by my planting there, you guys, there's the, remember that one, that first one that was sprayed? That's my herbicide. My first, that's our little picnic nook. And you can see I am the type of person who likes all the things. So it's however you like it, that you get to make it however you like it. And so it's important to realize what you have before you start planting and where is going to work the best for you and your family. And the next, you guys, there are tons of online designs. There are tons of online designs. If you search up native plant designs, you will find a lot of them. Just be aware that some of them are like from Missouri or a little bit different eco-region. So just keep that into consideration when you're looking at those designs. In general, I think we all probably know this, but I'm just going to say it so it's all said out loud. Tall things go in the back or in the middle, right? And then you taper down from there, especially if it is a garden in the front yard where other people are going to see it. So you want to have a little bit of some sort of structure to it. And anything over 3 feet does not belong next to a sidewalk or a driveway. So you want to keep anything near where people are going to walk short. So anything near cement, go with a 1 footer or less. Because this year was a crazy year. This spring, there was a lot of water out there, right? And things got leggy. So even if, it's normally a 3 foot, it could get taller potentially depending on the season and the situation that it endures. Our next thing is, this one's really important, is to define our space. So when we talk about intentionality, you can show intentionality by putting in a border. The nice thing about one of the other pros I forgot to mention about cutting the sod out is it creates a strong border because you had to cut those roots out. It's already deeper into the soil. It's already a few inches deeper into the soil. So it already creates a natural boundary for you. And you don't have mulch spilling out into the yard. Now, this one has a really nice fancy border, but your borders can be anything you want as long as it is defined edge. You could be wood from the tree limbs that fell down during the storms, right, that you had, and anything, or recycled bottles, that sort of thing. But making an edge says, this is a garden, this is a space, I've designated this space, and other people say, oh, okay, that's a space, that's on purpose. It's a mind game, you guys. The other one is signage. So yes, this is the path sign, but there are a million different kinds of signs out there. Please, please, please put out some sort of sign on your native garden because it does 2 amazing things. One, it tells you this is an intentional situation. This is here and it's growing. Your first 3 years, sleep, creep, and leap, they may not be the prettiest, most, robust looking garden in the world. And it lets people know this is happening. This is a thing. I'm working on this thing and it's okay. And the second thing the sign does is it increases awareness. And the more we can normalize the idea of using native plants in our yards, as, beautiful gardens, the better off the world's going to be, right? The stronger the ecology of our ecosystem is going to be. And so put up a sign so people know. All right, you can get as crazy with colors as you want. You guys saw mine. I love all the colors. I want all the things. So you don't have to be as wild as I am. I'm a little bit chaosy. You can go with something more subdued, right? So acknowledge colors that are similar to each other are calming, have a calming effect. Or you can go with colors that are opposite. And those are kind of going to give you the bam kind of impression, right? They're going to look, whoa, look at that. They're going to catch your eye. So everybody is a little bit different. So if you like nerding out about plants and colors and shapes and structures and on texture, this is a fun part. So this texture, so if you look at on the right, we've got the vervain. The vervain has the purple spikes. And then you have the green milkweed, or the spider milkweed, and it's creating a nice globe type effect. So then you've got spikes and rounds. So you got two different kinds of textures that kind of look fun together. You've got the heavy body of the prickly pear cactus in the top right corner. And you have that contrasted. Am I doing it right? Can you guys see it's the right corner? Left corner. It's reversed for you guys. In the top left corner. And you can see the wispy, soft of, now we've got prairie smoke. We also have grasses and sedges. And grasses and sedges can make a huge difference in a yard. Sedges are green late into the season and green early. They're green, nice and vibrant green early on. So don't overlook our grasses and sedges. There are short ones. And there's ones that you can use as a statement piece. There's all different kinds. The next thing is layering. So if you look, we've got different heights. So layering means different heights. And with different heights, that means that helps the pollinators get on into the ground. And then massing. Massing shows that it's intentional. You put a bunch together, you see, oh, that's where it is. That's on purpose. That person did that on purpose. Also, it helps pollinators to find it. Odd rules. People like 3s, 5s, 7s. People like things that are in odd numbers. And then structural elements. If you have something that's a little bit bulkier, it kind of helps it, right? So you can put in a shrub, put in a tree, and seasonal interests. So make sure you have something for each season. So this is spring. I'm going to go really fast, guys. I'm sorry. This, you can see it later. This is sun. These are some nice spring sun ones. These are nice spring shade ones. This is summer. Look at that bottle gentian in the middle. It's amazing. This is summer sun. Don't worry about writing it down. Get it later. Summer shade. That's and then of course fall. Fall is when you can use seed heads and the changing of the colors, but there's also plants that are still blooming. Your yellows and our purples right now are just outstanding. I love the lobelia. And then garden art, that helps you with focal points. All right, planting real fast. If you see that plant there is root bound. You see how the roots go around? Before you plant, soak your plants overnight. Soak your plants and then cut those roots or loosen them up, pull them out. We need to get them out, right? You want your hole wider than it is deep. You want that be able to get those, you want to be able to get those plants, those roots out, right? You're going to plant just to the crown. The crown is where the soil meets the plant. The crown, where the soil meets the plant. Once you get it in the ground, make sure you put some native soil on top of that. So the regular soil, you don't want potting soil sticking out, because a potting soil has a different time. It will dry out at a different rate than the rest of the soil. So you want to make sure that's nice and covered. And then you want to water it. So you want to water about once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on the heat that you have. You want to give it some tough love. So you don't want to overwater it. It's got to be encouraged to grow those roots. So you don't want to give it too much. If it rains, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. It already did it. So you want to give a little bit of water, but not too much. Does that make sense? All right, maintenance. We're almost there. We got when you want to wait as long as you possibly can to cut those stems. So if you can wait till May and June, do. Yeah, I know it's hard, you guys. It's hard in the spring. It's hard to wait. But you want to cut them about 18 inches off the ground. Cut your stems 18 inches off the ground. As you can see, a lot of our pollinators are using those stems to overwinter in. Do not destroy them right away if you can. Find a spot in the backyard nobody sees and just pile them up there until it's getting on to, summer's almost over, and then you can deal with them and have a little bonfire or something. And then everybody, for maintenance, you can fluff it a little bit if you need to in the spring, if you've got a new one coming out. We said water, and then you can water almost all the way. You can water up into the winter, up until the ground freezes, and that's okay. All right, so you be patient. Your plants will find their way, and these are working gardens. So when we say a working garden, that means she's got a job to do, and sometimes she gets dirty, and that's okay, right? So it means you're going to have holes. You might have aphids. You're going to have the beginning of an ecosystem, and it's going to have to find its own equilibrium, and it's going to take a little bit for it to do that. And so allow it that space and allow it that time to find it. And if people are asking you why you're allowing, having aphids on a plant, tell them it's finding its way. It's finding its way. The other insects will come. And then we're going to go ahead. We don't want to use any pesticides or herbicides, right? Because that's doing the opposite. I am going to leave green mulch up for second. That's the thing you deal with second, third year. And I'm going to leave that up to Laurel. Awesome. Transition gardens. You guys, I started not in my lawn. I started in my garden bed. I started in a strawberry bed. I wasn't ready to go that far. And it's okay to start in a garden bed that you already have, and fill the holes with natives, and then grow it out from there. That's perfectly fine. That's totally normal. And here's the thing, the plant will find the way, right? You can see in that one little corner by the downspout, there's an empty spot. I had a plant there. It was the wrong choice. It was the wrong choice for that spot. It didn't make it, but another plant found its way in. And that sedge is doing well right where it is. That's what wanted to live there, and I let it. So the next thing is just some considerations. It's up to you how purist you are. If you want your hostas next to your wild ginger, that's up to you. It's your yard. Have fun with it. It's okay. If you want to be totally eco-type, that is fine too. Start small, experiment, be patient, right? And let it find its own way. Let it find its own way. Obviously, you guys, if you have really bad weeds that are noxious weeds, you have to take care of those. Right? You have to take care of those. It's a working garden, so let it work. And of course, we don't want to dig up plants from the wild. All right, you guys. Whew, we got resources here, and I am over on time. And so I will be outside if you have questions for me later. And I'm going to let Laurel come on over and take over, and I will introduce her in just a moment.